All right, you ready to do this?
Let's do it.
All right, so welcome to Soccer Dad Nation, another episode. We're interviewing today Aaron Deloach, founder and president of Impact City FC. Impact City is multiple things: youth soccer program,
Yep.
chaplaincy for Major League Soccer and other professional soccer teams,
Yep.
um, and missions driven from a faith based soccer perspective.
That's right.
Right? Okay. So we're going to dive into all this because you got also a new location, first international location in the country of Haiti.
Which is completely different.
Completely different. Okay. So we're going to have a conversation about that too. So, first, if you could just maybe introduce yourself a little bit, tell us how you got started in the game of soccer.
Yeah. I mean, I fell in love with soccer when I was 4 years old. So, in many ways, outside of my parents, I guess you would say it's my first love, And played soccer, grew up in St. Louis. So, kind of soccer hotbed in America
Yeah.
for a long, big tradition there.
Yeah.
We didn't know anything about it. My parents weren't soccer players. And so just kind of navigating that. And luckily, we ended up on a good team with a coach who knew something, literally by luck.
Yeah.
They didn't know anything about that. And so played club soccer growing up, played in the ODP system, Olympic Development Program, for people who don't know what that is. Kind of older, trying to be resurrected a little bit now. So played on the Missouri State team and then
And
played
that
in
was
the
probably
region team
the
as well.
precursor to like what we see with the academies and such today.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Before U.S. Development Academy, before the Major League Soccer academies, ODP was where the top players were.
That was where you go outside of your club team,
Yeah.
right? And so the U.S. was broken into multiple regions, and you could make the state team, and you compete against the other states, and then you could be selected for your region team,
Yeah.
and then from there, that's how they would choose the national team. And so had the opportunity to play for the Region 2 team, never made it to the national team setup,
Yeah.
Then went on to play college soccer at Florida Southern, and then played in the USL with the Charlotte Eagles for 3 seasons before stepping away from the game as a player.
Okay.
And so a lot in that, but
Yeah.
that's kind of my soccer journey,
Okay.
if you will.
So, as a kid growing up, like you said, your parents had never played.
No, my dad was a college tennis player. My mom was a collegiate runner,
Okay.
and she ran track and cross country.
Okay.
So they knew sports,
Yeah.
but they knew nothing about soccer. Never played
Okay.
anything.
And how were they for you, like being athletes themselves, as parents, kind of guiding you through the game of soccer? Was it just like we're just going, like we don't know what we're doing, we're just showing up to the next thing and the next
Yeah.
thing and the next thing, or was it like, hey, we're pushing you to the next level. Let's find the next level. Let's find the next level because
Yeah.
we're talking 80s, 90s, right? Like
Yeah, no, I was born in '83.
yeah.
So
So there's no, hey, you're gonna play in MLS one day.
no, MLS doesn't exist, right? It doesn't come on the scene until '96.
Yeah.
You don't know anything about professional soccer. We had an indoor team in St. Louis, and that was all the rage, right?
Yeah.
St. Louis Steamers, St. Louis Ambush. They changed their names a couple times, but like that's where my birthday party was. It's like we're there. It's like the indoor, looking like a hockey rink kind of
Yeah.
thing, and that's all I know of any professional soccer at all. Never watched it on TV.
Yeah.
Never anything, right? Lucky for us, the way that my parents navigated me through that was we found a coach when I was in kindergarten that I stayed with through 9th grade.
Wow. That's
And that coach actually had known about the game and played the game and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so from kindergarten to 9th grade, I had the same club coach
wow.
all the way through. And there were a few times where, his son was on the team.
Yeah.
And so we became friends over those years and spent the night at his house, before a weekend game.
Yeah.
And they had some satellite package that you could watch like Bundesliga games. But I didn't know what the Bundesliga was, right? So it was like a Saturday morning and like games on TV. And it's like, there's a soccer game on TV? Like, this exists?
Yeah.
I had no idea about anything in world football
Mhm.
at all. So my parents weren't like overly pushy or looking for the best. It was like, in the coach we trust. Like,
Yeah.
we'll just kind of go that route.
Which is rare today because you see, I mean, it's almost annually at times for you see kids, you know, switching
Jumping
clubs,
ship, yeah.
jumping clubs, you know, trying to find the magic bullet to.
Yeah, and many times the magic bullet is you. Are you actually good?
Yes, right.
Like,
Yeah.
just get good, you'll be found.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Can you, so you growing up in that, were you kind of the kid that was always touching a ball, or you were just kind of showing
Yeah,
practice?
very active kid. We had regular practice and training and that kind of thing, but my neighborhood was full of kids, and we played every sport together.
Yeah.
So every day for 4 or 5 hours until it was dark, we would play in the yard, we'd play in the street, we'd do all the, so we'd go from, we're playing soccer in the backyard every day for like 45 minutes, and then we go play basketball.
Yeah.
And then from basketball, we go play like street hockey. And then we play, it's like, but every day we were playing in the yard. Guys who were 4 years older than us,
Right.
5 years older than us, guys who were 2 years younger than us. And it was 5-on-5 or 4-on-4 or 2-on-2 or 3 on. It was whoever was there. But we were playing all the time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always organized. And we didn't have training 4 nights a week. And we didn't, that kind of thing.
I think that's one of the kind of misconceptions in youth club soccer today. Whether it's you train 2 nights a week, 4 nights a week, 3 nights a week, all of that is good.
Yeah.
But the benefits of the backyard do not get talked about enough.
Yeah.
Like the going out, playing with the mix of kids, the freedom, a different ball, different size balls, no limits on the game. There's so much.
We had a fence on one side, a tree that was in the middle. You could play off the tree. You could, there was like a slight hill down the left side, and it was like, oh, okay, well, you just figure it all out, right?
Right. Like Benjamin and his friends, my youngest son, Benjamin, the backyard over the past few years has been the greatest proving ground.
Yeah.
And I've talked about it before, but there's, 11, 12-year-old kid. There's these, they're all 8 to 9, 10, and there's a couple 6-year-olds. Then my teenager comes out. Then a few middle school teenagers show up that we don't even know into the backyard, and there's water on one side, the house on one side.
Yeah.
A goal on one side, 3 trees you got to make sure you don't run into as well, the permanent defenders. And,
it stirs creativity, right, in a different way.
Yeah.
And problem solving in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And legend Johan Cruyff talks a lot about like, hey, we don't play in the street enough.
Yeah.
That's how we made these kind of creative century type players, and we're just not doing that enough.
Yeah.
And so there has been a little movement in the last couple of years towards, hey, free play, street, pickup, yard, less organized. And I think in the U.S. we needed the structure.
Yes.
Right. And like many things, there's a pendulum. So it's like, oh, we have no structure. We need to provide some structure. Now it's overcoaching, joysticking as a coach. The only time that you play is when you come to practice, and it's like, no, there's got to be some balance of freedom, and you got to love it. Right. And if you don't love it, you won't play outside of practice. If your parents are making you do it, you will only go to practice and you will only train and you only think about the game when you're there.
Yeah.
Which is no good for anybody except your parents' ego.
Yeah. I want to come back to that when we kind of transition more into some of the club conversation, but just continuing on. So you're playing youth. Were you thinking about like, I want to play in college?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah. So college was on the radar, but there was no horizon beyond that. At that time, because of where I lived and the club that I played with, there were guys who were like a couple years older than me who were very good, who we knew were like going somewhere,
Yeah.
So like the Twellman family, who's kind of legendary in soccer, is there, so you're playing against those guys, and then
you see
Pat Noonan and those guys.
Taylor Twellman now is one of the big announcers for
so
Apple TV, played for New England for many years, one of the leading scorers ever in MLS. Pat Noonan played for the national team. Played for the national team too.
So those guys were all around, a couple years older than me, so you kind of knew, hey, they're good, they're going somewhere, but you know.
Yeah.
And then the club that we grew up in, you know, was known for making some players.
Okay.
So there was that, but no professional horizon at all in my life. Like,
Okay.
not a thought.
So was it when you're in high school? Was it I just went and found a school, or was there like a recruiting process, or was it?
No, I lived in the zone for my public school, and
Yeah.
that was the school you're going to, and there's no thought process differently than that.
But I mean for college, like
Oh, for college.
yeah,
Yeah, at college, we went to a lot of showcases. My club team at one point was ranked number 4 in the nation. I don't know how they come up with that stuff, anyways, based on your tournament results or whatever. But college was, I mean, everybody was kind of going to college on the team.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so we showcased around and that whole deal. I knew I wanted to go to college in Florida. I just wanted the sunshine and the beach. I didn't want the snow. I didn't want the ice, you know.
Yeah.
So at that time, people are still sending letters. So you're getting lots of letters in the mail. I got a shoebox full of, you know, college recruiting letters and that kind of thing. But like a letter from Wisconsin, and I'm like, nope, no snow, you know, or like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so just tried to find the best fit where I could actually play
Okay.
and play consistently, because that's why I was doing it. I wasn't doing it to go to the next level. I was doing it because I liked playing soccer and I actually wanted to play and not ride the bench for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
So
You end up speaking to the coach ahead of time, all that, like for going to Florida Southern. You're visiting, or like
no, in some ways, I think it's providential, right? The hand of God helps determine some of these things, right? And so I had sent, you know, messages to all the schools in Florida because that's where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
Said, hey, here's who I am, whatever, that kind of thing. And the coach ended up being up at a tournament up north. He watched our team play. He only wrote down one player that he wanted. It was me out of the whole team, which was odd because our team was actually very, very good, you know. But I played the same position that he was looking for, and had attributes of like one of his best players that was graduating out and he needed a replacement for. And so he goes back to his office to write me a letter, and there's a note from me sitting on his desk. You know, so that was kind of the way that played out.
That's very cool.
Yep.
So in that, you getting there to college there's a lot of parents, I think, that are out there going, you know, some guy's going to show up on my door and recruit my kid.
Yeah.
You know, they're so good. That's how it happens.
Yeah.
You were being proactive.
Totally.
Your letters on the guy's desk, and we talked to our kids. We both coached at the higher levels, college, high school. We've talked to our kids. You got to be proactive. Get out there.
Yep.
Reach out. You were doing that, and providentially, coincidentally, some people, he's looking at you while you're reaching out to him, and there you are.
Yep.
Now you're going off to college. So, parents, kids. That's the lesson right there. We could have a whole other, and we probably will, conversation.
Yeah,
about
you need to.
The recruiting podcast, recruiting, going to college, all the things you need to do. That's a different conversation. But number one in that is that it just doesn't, you got to be proactive in that pursuit and showing that you want it.
Yeah, completely. I mean, the Cliff Note version is like you actually have to be good.
Yeah.
Especially with the way that college is happening now.
Right. There's transition now.
International, the transfer pool, all the stuff. Like, I don't need a 17-year-old kid from America who's not good.
Yeah. And that's what I say about your situation too. A lot of coaches are specifically looking for a certain position.
Yep.
They're committed to players. They have players on the team they're committed to certain positions. They have a style they play.
Yep.
Just because that coach isn't choosing you doesn't necessarily mean you can't play somewhere else.
Correct.
And why they're rejecting you, you just don't fit into their system. You don't fit into their need.
Yep.
So that's part of that process too, is figuring out what coach is needing that.
That's true at the professional level as well. And potentially true at the youth level. If you've got a team that's together for a number of years, and they need 2 defenders, and they don't need attackers,
Right.
you might be good, but if all things are equal, they're already committed to the guy that they have.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And so I think that's part of your due diligence process as a parent and as a player together when you're looking for the right college fit is like, what are all the schools? Who's graduating? Who's leaving? What positions are they graduating out in the same year? You know, all those kind of things. And so trying to find the right match, I think.
Yeah.
Goes a
So
long way.
you go to Florida Southern, you play there for 4 years.
Yeah.
Then you end up in the USL
Yeah.
at that point with Charlotte Eagles.
Yep.
All right, you want to explain USL Charlotte Eagles at that time?
Yeah.
This is A League Charlotte Eagles, MLS just starting probably.
So it would have been 2006, 2007. Okay. So MLS had been around for a decade or so.
Yes.
And so you had MLS and then USL, right? And a teammate of mine had signed there, who's 2 years older than me, and he had signed there, and he kind of called me and said, hey, you need to check it out. Very unique professional club at that point in time, the only Christian professional club in the world. So it was a unique fit and unique niche. And so I was intrigued by that growing up in a household that was a faith-based household as well as a family that was all about sports. It was intriguing to me, right? So went to check it out and went to the combine, did the thing. Ultimately, they didn't choose me, which was like, oh, okay. But then they said, hey, come stick around and come train. We just don't have a spot in your position at this point.
Huh, conversation we just had.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And so graduated in May, moved there, right, that summer. Trained with the team, did a few other things because of their mission. I had some other things to do while I was there.
Yeah.
And then season ended in October, and they signed me in October for the upcoming year. So that was the way that worked. And then played 3 seasons and kind of hung up the boots after that on my own volition and just said, all right, it was kind of a good experience. If you want to talk MLS, USL at that point in time, like I think the league minimum in MLS coming out of college in my year was like 17,500 for the year. Yeah. Right. So it's like it's a good experience.
You start looking at that number and going,
Yeah. I mean, at that point, there were like guys who were playing for DC or LA or New York, and there's like stories in the newspaper. They're like living in their car, playing in these major cities that costs a lot of money to
go to work,
live
another job, come back. Like I think I remember reading a story about it was Landon Donovan and I think the goalkeeper for San Jose. That's who they were playing for, I think, at the time. Earthquakes, I think, is who they were playing for. And, Landon Donovan, I think, at the time was the highest paid player in MLS. And I think the story was him and Joe Cannon, I think is who it was, were sharing an apartment with their wives in California to save money so that they could, play. And Landon Donovan was actually getting paid, but I thought it was just a funny story.
It is a very funny story, and you think to where we've come now.
Yes.
Right, and the people who sacrificed and paved the way and made that possible for the growth of soccer.
Got Messi.
Yeah, but think about it. From the '94 World Cup that we hosted, that was the catalyst to launch a premier kind of first division league.
Yep.
Didn't feel premier or didn't feel highly first division for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But now you're attracting the greatest talent in the world to come 28, 27 years later, right? Yeah. And so been quite a journey for soccer in America.
Yeah, I think we're on a path right now, like a launching pad with World Cup coming up in 2026.
Yep. It will go crazy again.
Yes, and very much so. Did I ever tell you my Charlotte Eagles story?
No.
Okay. So I went up to a tryout at Charlotte Eagles, graduate college.
Yep.
Want to continue playing. I'm going to tryouts. Going up to Charlotte Eagles tryout. I'm on the phone with Coach Steffens. And he hands me to somebody to give me directions to come to the tryout. So he gives me directions. I drive all the way up there. Nobody's there. I'm at this office. There's like nobody there. And this is kind of pre-cell phone a little bit time.
Yeah.
So I don't have a cell phone. So I'm like calling from like a payphone. Like nobody's answering. So I leave a message and I drive back home. I think it's like Monday, the following day or weekend after the tryout, and a guy from Miami calls me. I don't know how he got my number, how he found me. Calls me to invite me to play for this Miami Breakers team of the PDL. And for listeners, it was, A League, USL, PDL. So PDL was like the third division down from A League. So at the same time, I'm coaching the kids for that's the owner of the Miami Fusion, and I'm working for him a little bit, coaching his kids and stuff. And he's like, "Hey, why don't you go down and just start training with the Miami Fusion team? You play in Miami for the Breakers team and train with Fusion." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's a good idea." A little while later, I get a call from Charlotte Eagles. Coach Stefan's like, "I am so sorry. I don't know what happened. Why this guy, he gave directions to everybody to the field they're supposed to go to. I have no idea why he sent you to the office, you know, and, but hey, we do have a third goalkeeper spot. You can come up and, take the spot. We need a third keeper." And I was like, "Well, I just got this offer to train with the Fusion and with this team Miami, and I can do both. So I think I'm going to stay here."
I never knew this story.
Yeah. And so next thing you know, I'm playing in Miami, training with the Fusion. So I'm around, Valderrama and guys like that. That was a very cool experience.
Did you get to touch his fro?
No, but I almost took him out with an errant goal kick one day. So he laughed it off, but I thought I was out of there.
Yeah.
But it was, but Providence stepping in. If I had made it to the tryout in Charlotte, they'd given me the proper directions, I probably would have committed to Charlotte and then not had the opportunity to literally be inside a Major League Soccer team training and playing. So that was, and that's happened several times. I can look back in my life and that's usually what happened was like I showed up somewhere. Same thing in a college experience. I was supposed to go somewhere for college. Went there, showed up. The people that were supposed to meet me, nobody was there. College campus was empty. No coaches, nothing.
Yeah.
Came back, ended up at PBA. Yeah, so cool experiences.
Yeah.
All right, so you go from, you retire, and from there, because the first time I remember meeting you was at Palm Beach Atlantic.
Yeah.
When you were coaching with Jose.
Yeah.
How did you start coaching before that? How did you end up there? What happened?
No, I think probably because the nature of soccer in America, I started coaching while I was playing because it's like you got to do something else, and it's an easy way, and it fits with your schedule and that kind of thing, right? So started coaching while playing, and then I ended up getting an offer to be a head coach at an NAIA school in Texas.
Okay.
And so we moved to Texas for a year and a half, dying program. Kind of took it over. There's like 2 guys on the roster when I showed up, so you got to build it and that kind of thing. And luckily it was in the Dallas area. So lots of great talent coming out of that space. So we were able to recruit pretty easily and quickly. And while we were there, I felt like this is fine, but it wasn't all the way what God had for me. And I felt like I had this desire inside of me and a gift to communicate and to share God's word in a different way. And I wasn't getting to use it. There was a good discipleship kind of thing happening in the team.
Yeah.
You can make a big impact on a group of young people in that way. But through that kind of unrest in some of it, we ended up taking a pastor job locally in West Palm Beach. But then I wanted to stay connected to the game, right? So it was kind of like, where do you spend most of your time? And so then that's why I ended up coaching at PBA for 3 years.
Okay.
So
then from PBA,
yeah,
what happens then? Where do you go?
Yeah, I stopped coaching pretty much, and kind of dug my heels into the local church. And in many ways, local church is a lot about coaching. You're coaching people, you're pouring into people.
And
very similar work.
Was it youth?
Student ministry, and then revitalize a church with a group of guys, kind of stepping in where, and maybe that's part of my deal is like, hey, there's nothing here. Can you resurrected a little bit.
Yeah.
And so did that, and then along the way kind of got this picture or this vision of how we could engage soccer in a different way, to where it was about soccer, but it had nothing to do with soccer at the same time.
Okay.
And so that's when Impact City was born. Was out of those years of like, hey, I'm pastoring, but I think there's a way to use soccer to reach people and connect with people and invest with people.
So tell us about that. How does that seed get planted? How does that come about? How does Impact City start 5 years ago?
Yeah, 5 years ago, we started in November of 2019.
And I'm repping the gear.
You are.
I'm glad I did.
I love it.
Because I see you're not. But
Yeah, somebody's got to do it.
yeah.
No, we started 5 years ago, November 2019. So at the time of this recording, it's about our 5-year anniversary, which is a big milestone.
Yeah.
And I think the beginning of Impact City started with an introspective look at who I am and how God made me. I think everybody has that point in time where you go, okay, what am I good at? Like, what could be my sweet spot? What do I enjoy?
Yeah.
How could I do it in such a way that would make sense for my family? And so it's the collision of that kind of thing. And so there's this inward look that everybody kind of goes through at a certain point.
Yeah.
And that's what was happening for me. Kind of been in local church space as a primary profession for a while, and felt like there was a piece of me that wasn't being represented.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in many ways, if you open scriptures and you run into Matthew chapter 28, you see the Great Commission. And the Great Commission is a co-mission that believers, Christians, share with God, right? Share with Jesus, to go into all the world and make disciples and teach them to obey everything Jesus commanded. And so in many ways, Impact City was birthed out of that. It was a response to that. What better way for me to go into all the world than through the experiences that I've had at the last 20, however many years of my life, probably more, right? 30 years of my life. I've been experiencing the game of soccer from the youth ranks, all the way through what, like we just described.
Yeah.
And I have something to offer in this space that's unique and special. And so why not go into all the world through the global game? And then it was just, okay, that's the concept.
Yeah.
Now, how do you organize it in such a way that makes sense?
Yeah.
So
fast forward the 5 years through, because I'm, if you look now, you see how many locations?
Yeah, we have 5 across the U.S. and then the one new one in Haiti.
Yeah. So you fast forward, and I'm sure, again, because when I met you again was, I think this was end of maybe 2020 or something.
Yeah. January 2020, my wife and I said, hey, we're going to go full time into this and really see this come to life.
Yeah. So you call me, you're coming to South Florida, setting up a new location here.
Yeah.
Which was honestly an incredible call for me at the time, because I had been serving in FCA,
right,
on the board of FCA, and we were talking about all the different things we could do. And one of the things that kept coming up was soccer. Could we do something with soccer?
Right.
It'd be something that I'd be praying about, but I'm like, I don't know. It's such a interesting landscape, and I was coaching the high school team at the time, so it's like, how do we do this? How can we do it? Everybody would talk about it, and then so we're praying about it, and then you show up.
Yeah.
And from there, COVID hits. So you're launching down here through COVID, which was another
challenge for sure.
Yeah. And 5 years later, my youngest son, starts playing there with the youngest group down here, and which is now a group of 10, 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
They started when they're like 5 or 6, which is really cool. And fast forward, you've got these different locations, and now you've gone into Jean-Marc Alexander came on.
Yeah.
Former Haitian national team captain, professional, happened to run into down here as well on some soccer fields, and now he became the international director, and now you've launched a team in Haiti.
Yeah.
A professional team in Haiti.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
That's the intention, to start in the third division in January 2025,
Okay.
if the third division happens.
Right. Okay. But that, I mean, how cool would that be? But
No,
like,
yeah, it's amazing.
yeah. So I guess share some of that with what's going on in the different locations.
Yeah.
What's is there the potential to grow further? What's the plan? What's it going for?
Yeah. Ultimately, we have a big dream. And we know that the big dream exists outside of the U.S. And so from the beginning, our mission has been to make an eternal impact on the soccer culture in cities everywhere. So cities everywhere baked into the beginning of it. Why cities? Well, 80% of the world's population lives in cities.
Okay.
So if you want to make an impact on a city, you can pretty much impact a nation.
Yeah.
Right? And so how do we do that? Well, by reaching the next generation, right? Helping them grow up to be men and women of integrity, men and women of honesty, men and women of faith, men and women who understand God's word, have a biblical perspective, etc. And that can also get it done on the field, right? Like, and so how do you hold both at the same time, where it's like, hey, we want excellence, like we want remarkable quality, like we want to build and develop real players, but also teach them how to operate not just on the field, but in all of life as a representation of Jesus.
Yeah.
And they can both coexist. And sometimes you see the opposite of being true. People are like, well, you can be great, but it's win at all cost. Or we can be really kind and we can be really bad, And I just don't think that it has to be like that.
There's an and in there.
Yes.
Yeah. We can be strong Christian, Christ-following believers and be
competitors and compete with a heart that honors God.
Yeah.
And so to go back to your question, we started in St. Louis and kind of created a model that we thought we could replicate. And the model gets refined a little bit over time as we collect feedback from everywhere and that kind of thing. So the model was we would place a chaplain at the top of the soccer pyramid at a professional level, because we're trying to impact the soccer culture.
Yeah.
Right. So we knew we wouldn't be able to have a professional franchise in every city. It would be ridiculous, right? It doesn't work. But how can you affect that soccer pyramid, which would be pro youth grassroots? Mm-hmm. That same soccer pyramid exists everywhere. The college and university system isn't the same in places outside of the United States.
Yeah.
Right.
So
pro youth grassroots. We place a chaplain, which is basically somebody to care for a professional club. Lead small group Bible study, one-on-one care, wisdom, guidance, helping new players get adjusted, premarital counseling, weddings. I mean, like all of these things, because in the landscape of pro sports, you don't really have the opportunity to function in the local church in the same way as somebody else, right? So we put a chaplain in St. Louis. It was like, all right, we're doing that. And we give them opportunities to serve the city, like with refugees or homeless or, speaking engagements at little schools and radio and that kind of stuff. And then how do we reach youth? Well, we started the youth club as a way to do that. And then grassroots would be those who aren't going to pay to play, a little less structured, a little less organized. And so it was like, hey, let's start a city reach program. Let's go to an underserved neighborhood and drop a free ball and play, drop a ball for free, play pickup, bring snacks, bring food, bring mentoring, and then be able to scholarship kids in that space to play in the club if they wanted to, and not let the finances be a barrier in a pay-to-play model. And in that grassroots section, we kind of added a few other pieces as well. So we've got programs in schools in that after-school era or time hour where kids kind of get in trouble if they go home and parents aren't around. And so we've got some after-school programs. And so that became the model. And then we wanted to send like everybody on a mission trip overseas once per year. So coaches, players, pro guys, And so we started to kind of actualize those things. And that was the model in St. Louis. It grew first, and then we just basically try to replicate it everywhere. And then it's been getting refined more and more as time goes on.
Yeah, I would say one of the cool experiences for us as a family, my son, just being able to be involved in the different pieces. Because again, we've been in and around this a long time. I've had older children go through it in different clubs, and the difference, I think, we found in Impact City was that, character um, was primary above everything else.
Yep.
Character building, care for the kids, a genuine love beyond who you are as a soccer player on the field.
Yeah.
Coaches that believe that same thing. And so that being first colors everything else that you do with soccer, with the coaching, the education. It's not different drills, it's not different techniques, it's not different say,
Yeah,
hey,
it's
we're
an
going to do
environment, it's a
different
culture,
tactics. Right. The environment, culture around the kids, I think helps them enjoy it more, stay in it longer.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the toxic environments too that people go into come out of where it's, and I've noticed that from, people maybe started when Impact City was young and they brought their kids in and they're like, oh, well, I don't know. The teams aren't really as formed yet. Maybe they're not quite as good. Maybe we need better coaching. And they left and then they've come back.
Yeah.
And I think for our youngest son, like the opportunities of the mission trip to Argentina, that experience, and it's not just a missions trip. Like the missions trip part of it was incredibly humbling too.
Mm-hmm.
See how people are living, but that could be done with the soccer ball.
Yeah.
Through that soccer ball, bringing people together and these kids showing up at a club to train in Argentina.
Yeah.
Are American kids, and immediately they're friends with these kids in Argentina
because of the common language of the ball.
My son sat there for days passing with one kid before each training session. He could not speak Spanish. The other kid could not speak English. He cried when he left because he didn't get to say goodbye to the kid that day. He wanted to say goodbye. We were able to find his number and connect with him later, but he was like upset. I'm like, they couldn't even speak to each other except.
But yet he wanted to say goodbye.
Yeah, except with the ball. So that experience, and even there's other experiences through Impact City of you had a kid in St. Louis go train with the St. Louis FC.
St. Louis City. Yep.
St. Louis City FC. Down here, Inter Miami.
Yep.
That opportunity there.
Yep.
So those connections to the professional clubs, so cool. And opportunities that you're not getting everywhere.
Right.
Like those aren't opportunities
right.
all clubs have. So Impact City is not just faith-based Christian club. We're a church, at a church kicking the ball around. No, we're out competing
right
at the highest levels, connecting kids into professional programs for training and opportunities. There's an elite level to it. Right. There's the grassroots, but there's a pathway and trying to continue growing.
I think the pathway is important for us. I think as the years go, every year it's like, hey, let's try to enhance that. You can't do everything at one time.
You're still very young.
Very young, right? And so how do we do that? And so, partnerships with Inter Miami or Argentinos Juniors are super helpful in that, building the top of the pyramid of like a UPSL team. And what does that look like, right? So we're dabbling in that right now, right? I think that's a great platform for us in every location.
Right.
And so then you kind of have, hey, this college age young adult type ministry that feels like a capstone, but then you're 16, 17-year-olds who are talented and want to play at the college level. Man, you pull them up and you give them some opportunities to play against men because that's what they're going into, right? So I think always trying to enhance that soccer pathway.
Right.
And you mentioned a little bit of what's happening in Cap Haitian Haiti. will enter a team into the third division. It's promotion and relegation in Haiti, whereas in the U.S. it's still not that. So who knows? But
Yeah.
if we're going to be in the space, we're going to try to go for it,
Yeah.
and try to rise through the ranks. If you've seen the show, welcome to Wrexham, right? It's like, welcome to Wrexham in Haiti,
Yeah.
Like there's an opportunity. So we started the academy. The academy's done great. We got a U13, U15, U17, and they just had their first match on Sunday. They won 3-0. So proud of those guys, all the coaches, everybody. And then that academy will feed into that team.
Yeah.
So really cool.
Very cool. All right, let's transition a little bit to, you have 3 kids.
Yeah.
So soccer dad, Aaron.
Yeah.
You're not just coaching and president and founder of Impact City. You are also a soccer dad to 3 kids.
16, 13, and 10.
Okay. Yeah. So how is soccer dad Aaron different than Coach Deloach or founder and president of Impact City, Aaron Deloach? How
Completely different, actually.
Right.
I haven't actually thought about that question.
Really?
I'm very excited just to watch them. I don't give a lot of instruction unless they ask.
Yeah.
I don't give a lot of feedback other than, hey, it was fun to watch you play today. Tell me about that. Tell me about what happened. How'd you feel? I'm asking questions. I'm not giving instruction or commands unless it's asked for from them. My middle son, certainly all things soccer is his life. Like, he's taken to it. He knows more of the world football statistics and transfer moves and managers and all of that stuff than I do. He wants to play every day, all day, multiple times a day.
Yeah.
And so that's easy. He asks for feedback a lot more. My daughter played for Impact City for a couple years. She's taken a year off. She's just now re-entering.
Okay.
So she came up to me, this is just even 2 weeks ago, and said, Dad, I want to be on a team again. Now, she's been coming to technical training some, and she's been floating around, right? But she's like, I want to be on a team again. I said, great, I'd be happy to find you a team. But she's like
10.
dabbling with gymnastics, and she likes surfing, and she just likes a lot of different things. Been doing some other activities at school with different sports, and but when they say to me, hey, I don't really want to play anymore, people are like, well, how was that for you? I'm like, I don't mind. They got to figure out what they love.
Yeah.
And I'll support them in what they love. But soccer dad, I sit on the sidelines, I enjoy the game, and I don't have much to say.
Did that evolve over time, like from when they were younger to now, or is it it's always been like that?
No, it's always been like that. I think there's this weird pressure thing from parents, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I kind of played through soccer thing, so I don't have any, I don't feel like, you got to live up to my standard, you got to love what I love, and I don't feel like, well, I never really accomplished it, so you got to accomplish it for me. Yeah. I don't have any of that. I just really just enjoy watching them and letting them have fun, and because I know this, ultimately it has to be their decision, and if they don't love it and choose to love it on their own, no amount of me doing this is going to make them good.
Right.
There has to be an internal desire, an internal love, an internal drive. And if you say, I don't want to play anymore, I'm like, okay. Like my oldest son recently said, I don't want to play college soccer. I want to play college football. I want to be the kicker and play college football. And I'm like, all right, you know what you want.
Yeah.
I mean, when you consider the world population, most people don't know what they want. I mean, he's, with that declaration, he's doing better than 95% of the population, because he's saying, I know what I want, and I'm willing to work for it, and I'm willing to train for it and sacrifice for it, because that's what I want.
I think it's C.S. Lewis, but it was a quote that you said that just popped in my mind.
Yeah.
It was like, the secret of weariness and nervous disease in the world, basically anxiety, secret of weariness and nervous disease in the world is the lack of a dominating interest.
Wow.
So him finding, I want to kick this other football.
Yeah.
And he's actually doing good.
Yeah, he's doing great. He had a 47-yarder the other day. I was like, wow.
That's crazy. And he's 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the cool thing about, kind of leaving things open too in sports, because I love seeing people in their strengths. And sometimes, and we deal with this when you maybe cut a kid from a team, or kid finally decides to stop playing. You're like, oh man, you're so good, but they lacked a passion for it.
Correct.
And without that passion as well, I think it's really hard to be elite in anything. And not that you have to do what you're doing to eventually become elite. I think there's another part of that for parents and kids as well. Like, can I go out and enjoy playing soccer
and still gain something from it with no future aspiration?
Right. That is my aspiration. Like, I want to, at 8 years old, parents, can we just put them out there and let them play?
Yeah.
And eventually they may come along and go, I want more out of it. Like your daughters come, I want to be back on a team. I want more out of it. Okay. Yeah. Now that they want that, all right, let's help them start navigating. And if they ask for more again, then okay, like, I'm going to be supportive. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, is kind of helping be supportive. Like you said, asking questions versus always telling, this is what you need to do. When your kid's saying, I want to get better. Okay, what do you think you need to do?
Right.
How would you like to do that? And at a certain level, there's being supportive is giving some accountability to them. If they say they want to do it, okay, well, I'll help you. I'll help you keep to a schedule. You want to do it?
Yeah,
I can do that as a parent too. But also, and it certainly, and it changes as they get older. As
different type of support.
Right, as it gets older. So you have your 3 kids. What's up, Gene? No, come on in. I can cut and edit.
Hi.
You don't have to tiptoe now. You're already on the.
He's a good editor.
That's the good thing about these things. We can clip and cut. So, all right. So, okay. So, soccer dad, what would be kind of something you would say, your advice to parents? You may have already said it in what you said, but your advice to parents as a soccer dad with 3 kids, going through it, having played yourself, coaching, what would be your advice? Because I was telling you this earlier. I heard a guy, former NFL football player, played in college. He's got kids playing soccer now, and he was on a podcast. They were talking about it, and he was literally kind of begging the coaches, he's like, the struggle is real. Like, as a soccer dad, the struggle is real. I don't know how to navigate this properly. I'm struggling with just talking to my kids, the ride home, trying to coach them after a game. What do I do? How can you communicate with me better? He's really like, the struggle is real. I need help.
Yeah. What advice I could give? Maybe like, it's not that serious. It might sound funny. Like, we're trying to make real players, in Impact City. Like, we really are.
Yeah.
But like, it's not that serious. Might mean a few different things.
Yeah.
I would say, like, it's got to be fun first. And so until they're having fun, don't try to put all these extra demands or all these other things on it. Like, help them fall in love with the game. Yeah. Let them have fun doing it. Let them see you having fun. Make it part of your family. Let it be fun.
Yeah.
And once it's fun and they have that internal desire that this is something that they actually want, then it gets more serious.
Right.
But until then, like, they got to love it enough to go play in the street, and the other days when training's not there,
Yeah.
they gotta. And until then, it's not that serious because they're not going to go anywhere,
Yeah.
right? Like, and the reason I also say it's not that serious is like, the statistics, but maybe not everybody listening knows the statistics, and they kind of fluctuate from here, there, and everywhere. But like 2% of high school players play college, 2% of college players play professional,
Yeah.
which leaves you with a
Yeah.
0.0007% chance of playing professionally,
Yeah.
right? And when you're 9 years old and your parents are putting whatever expectation and this kind of thing on you, and it's so serious, and they're like destroying the referee who's a 15-year-old, and the parents are verbally assaulting the referee and going nuts about a missed call and doing all of this kind of stuff. Like, it's not that serious.
Yeah.
Now, it's not that serious doesn't mean that you don't show up on time, that you don't wear the right gear, that you don't give your best effort in training,
Yeah.
that you're not respectful. Because in many ways, that's what sport can teach you. Apart from Christian values, apart from, getting your scholarship or getting your contract or whatever, right? Like, show up on time, wear the right gear, give your very best at whatever you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Like, those
Character
things,
building.
those things are serious.
Yes. Because that's life.
That's the building blocks of life, and that's what sport allows us to teach.
Yeah, and I guess I shouldn't even say the building blocks of life, the building blocks of being successful.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
You're being taught that
Yeah.
to be successful through the character lessons.
Communicate well, interact with your teammates. Like,
Teamwork is like,
all of those types of things, those are serious.
Mhm.
The results, the performance, not that serious.
right.
Until you get to a certain age where they completely own it, and they're all in, and they're willing to wake up at 5 a.m. on their own and say, here's my training plan. What do you think?
Yeah.
Which is where my 13-year-old is. Even just last night, he said, okay, so on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, I'm going to get up every day at 5:30, and I'm going to do these things so I can train before school. And then after school, I'll train with the school team, and then I'll go to club, right?
He's taking ownership.
He's
of it.
taking ownership of it. Now I go, okay, now what? Okay.
Right.
So my words of advice, it's not that serious.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Before we kind of finish up, you recently had back to kind of Impact City, different events, soccer ball.
Yes.
I missed this year, but I always enjoy attending it. And could you explain the soccer ball to people and like what happens in soccer ball? Usually there's like a professional player that comes in and speaks, and
Yeah.
what the soccer ball is, and other things you do throughout the year to kind of raise awareness aside from the soccer field.
Right.
What are some other things you do, and then maybe even how people can get involved and find out more about
Sure.
Impact City, whether as a player, a parent, maybe even how coaches, because I know you're always
Yep.
like looking for good coaches, how they can
Yep.
get involved, and even people that just want to be supporters that love the mission vision.
Yeah.
What is that mission vision that they can get involved with
Yeah.
beyond just you're putting your kids on a soccer team?
Right. Well, we generally say there's lots of ways you can participate, right?
Okay.
And so you can participate as a player, as a parent. You can jump into programs. You don't have to try out. You can join any of these kind of programs that are on the website, impactcityfc.com. And there's a whole list of programs, right? Then there's the teams that you try out for, right?
Yeah.
And so then there's a selection process there. So those are ways as a participant with a kid,
Okay.
We have 2 philanthropic events
Okay.
every year in every location. And those events would be the soccer ball, which is more like a gala.
Okay.
So it's a little play on words.
Right.
The soccer ball. So the ball means you wear a dress and a jacket and you dress up, and there's paddle bidding and live auction and, some of those kind of things. And then we have the golf tournament. And the golf tournament's usually in the springtime, and you can enter a foursome. You can,
I
play as an
I have the
individual.
trophy from that first one.
Oh, you won one time? No, sure. Um, and so those are two great events that people can just jump in on. You don't have kids that play in that age, but you love the mission.
Yeah.
You want to make it an eternal impact on the soccer culture in cities everywhere.
Yeah.
You want to see today's players become tomorrow's leaders who serve their city and change the world. Hey, you can do that through participating in one of those events, or you could just go to the website, impactcityfc.com/give. And we've got a whole group of people that just give regularly. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and about 65% of our income we produce through our own programs and teams, and 35% we raise through individuals, churches, foundations, those events, etc. So those ways, and then back to the website. If you're interested in coaching or joining the staff, that kind of thing, impactcityfc.com/apply allows you to fill out an application for consideration in those roles. And looking for special, unique people who love the game, love to make a difference in the world, and have a heart for God.
Now I'll put all that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Is there in the plans right now any other locations within the next year or two, or
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah, I think this year has been a focus on can we grow our roots a bit deeper where we're at in each of the locations. So Salt Lake City, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Charleston, and then South Florida and Cap Haitian, right? So those are the places that we've got active, regular, kind of deep ministry happening.
In St. Louis, you're actually getting ready maybe to break ground, build a field. Plans.
Yeah, in St. Louis, we're in negotiations for 30 acres, which we would build our first facility, which would be amazing. So proposed, 4 outdoor fields, one that has like some stadium type seating, and a full size indoor field. So it'd be 5 fields total, but that would be a hub for our organization in many ways. So we're just out of space, so we have to do it. It's not like, oh, we just want to do this cool thing. It's like there is no more space to rent. We are filled to the max.
The demands are kind of forcing you into
it. So what do I believe? I believe that we will have a few more locations. World Cup coming into 2026. We want to be set up, ready to receive people who are looking for soccer. But for the most part right now, we're trying to just go deeper where we're at and make sure that we can make as big of impact as we can on the cities that we're already in.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. I know personally for us, our family, our youngest son, who is now, he's now training up
in Orlando City.
Going to kind of a full-time soccer school, and a lot of that developed out of here. And if you see him there now, he's thriving in it and really enjoying his soccer right now. And last night, I don't know if I told you, he got to meet so many cool things happening, but ran in last night to Christian Pulisic.
Oh, nice.
So he finally got to meet
cool
Christian.
Yeah.
And he was completely speechless. My wife was telling me. I'm like, what'd you say to him? He's like, I was in complete shock. I couldn't say anything. So, that little boy, 10-year-old boy, meeting Christian Pulisic,
greatest American of all time. Let's just call it right now.
Yeah. And he's just like, I can't even speak to him, but my wife's like, he was just on cloud 9, like all night, all morning, just picture and autograph, and
cool.
Coach handed him like a challenge coin or something. Just really cool experience. So those things that we're getting experience with our kids that they're enjoying. Yeah, so that's good.
Well, thank you for just being an advocate for Impact City as we started, just from 2020 till now. I know it was something that was in your heart, but you've been just instrumental in introducing us to the right people in the area, and just always standing behind us in every way. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, I hope to see so much more over the years, and I know you're doing a great job in leading it, and I'm just looking forward to seeing so much more.
Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
enjoyed it.